Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm truly honored to be here. Ambitious. I've heard that word many times. Usually, right before I'm about to do something unusual, something unexpected, a little outside the box. And every time I hear it, it lands differently. I still remember the first time it really confused me. I was at a family gathering with my cousins when I told them that I wanted to build my career in healthcare, that I wanted to become a doctor. And right away they said, "Oh, you want to become a doctor? That's ambitious. No one in our family has ever become a doctor." Which, in family language, can mean anything from "we believe in you" to "please, be serious." I couldn't tell if they were proud of me or gently trying to bring me back to reality. But what I realized is that the word ambitious can sound encouraging and discouraging at the same time. A few years later, when I was working as an intern, I told my professor, Dr. Saraurul Islam Mukta, here he is, that I wanted to get involved in clinical research because I was starting to see myself not just as a future physician, but as a physician scientist. Dr. Mukta was incredibly supportive and immediately connected me with other researchers, including Dr. Sadiqul Islam Talukdar. When Dr. Talukdar heard about the project that I desired to work on, he smiled and said, "As an intern, you want to do clinical research? That's quite ambitious, especially this early on." But this time, the word did not feel like a barrier. It felt like recognition, as if someone had just reminded me that my curiosity was my strength, not a distraction. A year later, I heard that word in a very different way. I was applying for a master's program in the States, and I told one of my colleagues that I wanted to apply for a fully funded scholarship. She looked at me and said, "You really think you will get a scholarship to study abroad? That's ambitious." And honestly, the pause said more than the word itself. Her reaction made me doubt myself instantly, even though just a moment earlier, the plan had felt completely within reach. Over time, I have realized something important, that my emotional reaction wasn't really about the word itself. It was about whether I believed that I could turn that ambition into something real. And a lot of that belief that I could turn my big dreams into something real came from my wonderful parents. They're there. They taught me that progress usually begins when someone dares to think beyond what feels normal and then works hard enough to make it real. My mom used to give me a simple example: flying. She had said that there was a time when people would have laughed at the idea of humans flying. But now we get on a plane like it's completely normal, travel across the world within a matter of hours, and still get upset if the Wi-Fi is slow, the legroom is tight, and somehow there are no snacks. That belief is what led me here. Because in a way, studying here, pursuing a PhD, even being able to stand here today was, at one point of my life, just another ambitious idea. But then I had to ask myself a more important question. Now that I'm here, what kind of problem do I want to solve through my PhD? What challenges are there are still not fully addressed, and which of those are affecting people every single day? And that's when my focus began to shift towards obesity. Not because it's rare or unusual, but because it's so common and yet so difficult to treat effectively. Obesity is not just about weight. It's a chronic relapsing disease that nearly affects every organ system, linked with type 2 diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, sleep apnea, and more. And here in West Virginia, the burden is even heavier. We're constantly among the states most affected, with adult obesity rate above 40%. But the hardest part is not that people do not know what healthy means. Of course, they already know about it. But the real challenge is that there's a huge gap between what people need and what our current options can realistically offer. So, lifestyle changes matter, of course. But for many people, lifestyle changes alone do not lead to long-term weight loss. In fact, even a small number of patients can lose about 10% weight loss. Surgeries can be effective, but since it's invasive and comes with risk, only about 1% of eligible patients undergo bariatric surgery. And let's be honest, not everyone hears major surgery and thinks, perfect, let's do it. Of course not. Then we started hearing a lot of buzz around GLP-1 drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic, and they have shown real promise. But soon I realized that there is more to this story. Around 5 to 10% of patients, they simply can't tolerate these medications. And 50 to 75% of people, they discontinue these drugs within the first years. And when they stop, the weight often comes back. So even with these advances, there's still a gap. Now, the question is, what can we offer to the people who need something more than medications and lifestyle changes, but something less invasive than surgery, who need a one-time intervention with fewer side effects, but durable enough to truly last? At WVU Medicine, I have had the privilege to work with my wonderful advisor, Dr. Shailendra Singh, who leads our team in offering an incision-less endoscopic weight loss procedures. In other words, these are the non-surgical options that do not involve external incision. They're done as outpatient procedures, so many patients can go home the same day and get back to their normal life within a few days. One example is endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty, or ESG. With ESG, people can lose about 15 to 20% total body weight over 1 or 2 years. It is a strong safety record and can really be a meaningful option, specifically for the patients with a BMI between 30 to 40 who may not qualify for bariatric surgery, but still need something more effective than lifestyle changes and or medications alone. But when I took a closer look, I began to notice that there is an important gap. ESG works by making the stomach smaller. It creates a mechanical restriction, similar to surgery, and that does work. But weight loss is not just about creating a mechanical restriction. It's also driven by the signals in the body, like hunger hormone or ghrelin hormone, as we call it, and by the brain. So that's where ESG has a limitation. Because ESG only reduces the size of the stomach, but it does not fully engage the hormonal and neural pathways that regulate hunger. So even when someone is doing everything right, the hunger and craving can still be there. And it made me ask a simple but an ambitious question. What if we could go beyond what ESG currently offers, keep the mechanical restriction, but also target those pathways, those hormonal and neural pathways that drive hunger? What if we could combine the physical effect of ESG and combine it with a hormonal effect and do it without making the procedure more invasive? That combination is the heart of our clinical trial. And that's where fundal ablation comes in. Because we're not just looking at body weight, we're also looking at the things that tell us whether health is really improving. Blood pressure, lipid, fasting glucose, insulin, and more. And that's what makes this project meaningful to me. Because the question isn't just about, will the number on this scale go down? The deeper question is, will health improve and why? If this works, it could help fill an important gap between medications and surgery. It could give more patient access to an incision-less, minimally invasive options that supports meaningful weight loss and metabolic improvement without requiring a major operation. And in places like West Virginia, where the burden is high and the need is real, Better tools for obesity treatment aren't just a nice idea. They could save lives. It could reduce complications, lower long-term costs, and ease a burden that too often builds quietly over time. So now, whenever I hear the word ambitious, I still feel all the things it can bring: doubt, motivation, determination. But I've started to treat it as a signal rather than a judgment. Because ambition is not the finish line, it's the beginning of a responsibility. The responsibility to test the idea, to do the work, and to build the evidence. So, if there is a little girl listening somewhere in West Virginia, or in a small village in Bangladesh, or anywhere else from the world, and someone calls her ambitious, I hope she hears it as permission. Permission to let her ambition fly, to let it rise higher and higher. Because one day, if she's brave enough to carry that ambition, and resilient and disciplined enough to turn it into something real, that ambition can become someone else's hope, someone else's treatment, someone else's second chance, and most important, someone else's reason to believe that their future can be bigger too. And with that, I'd like to finish my talk. Thank you.